Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. You're going to hear all about how I traveled 43 hours across the United States from Arkansas to Washington to go to my very first travel job. So tune in. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about how I traveled 43 hours across the United States from Arkansas all the way to Washington State, where I am now for my very first travel job. So before I get into that, for those of you that don't know about this channel, this is the Finding Finergy channel. The goal of this channel is to help women focus on finding and becoming the best version of themselves. And so not only do I want you to go on that journey, but I want to show you my journey to finding and becoming my best self. So I'm super excited and ready to tell you guys about my journey. I just got here, so this is the very first morning in Washington. By the way, I'm in Mount Vernon, Washington, and I'm so excited to be here. Y'all, it has definitely been a journey here. So just to give you a little background, this is my very first travel social work assignment, and which makes it even more exciting. Before this, I definitely had a W-4 job, and wait to share with you guys a little bit more about my journey. So just to give you some more context, I did get to travel. So traveling from Arkansas to Washington will take you through Arkansas, Oklahoma, the very northern part of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Oregon, and Washington. And you guys, I went this way because if I would have went straight from Little Rock to Mount Vernon, Washington, I would have had to encounter the Rocky Mountains. And it is currently December of 2022. I have never been to the Midwest, but luckily I got some intel from some Facebook groups that shared that it's super snowy in that part of the country right now. Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Montana, all those amazing Midwestern states that the Rocky Mountains go over, they get super snow. And I don't know how much you guys know about Arkansas, but we don't do snow, okay? So whenever a snowflake drops down, we are going in the house. We're buying all the bread from Walmart, all the milk and all the bread as soon as there's a forecast for some snow. And that was when I realized I had to reroute my trip. And the suggestion that I got from the Facebook group was to go south and go toward California and go up. So that's what I did. I decided to drive from Little Rock, Arkansas to Los Angeles, California, and then from Los Angeles, California, up the coast on I-5 all the way to Mount Vernon, Washington. And so it was a super exciting trip. I'm planning to share some of the video footage that I took while I was on the trip with you guys, so you guys can see some of the things that I got to see. So before I dive into those highlights, I want to share with you what my initial plan was versus how my trip really went, because I think that when we start planning things, we just get this idea in our head and we just kind of stick to it. And so it's important to kind of understand there's gonna be a difference, right? So anytime you're doing something like this, if you decide to drive to your travel assignment, you're gonna have to be flexible, okay? So I was super flexible. Here was my plan. My plan was to leave this past Monday at 6 a.m. And I'm a planner, so I had went on Expedia and I booked all my hotels. I did reserve now, pay later, which I'm glad I did. But I booked all my hotels, and my plan was to stop in Amarillo, Texas, night 1. The next stop was going to be Flagstaff, Arizona. The third stop was going to be Bakersfield, California. The fourth stop was Ashland, Oregon. And then stop number 5, Mount Vernon, which is where I'm at now. And so I planned to travel from Monday all the way to Friday. And so that was my plan. So let me tell you what really happened. I did leave on Monday, but I didn't leave until Monday night, like at 8 o'clock. So at the last minute, one of my friends, one of my sorority sisters, let me know, hey, I could go with you. She could only ride half of the trip, but I was like, okay, that would be amazing, And so I waited for her to get off of work, and we left out from Little Rock pretty much at 8 o'clock and headed to Amarillo, which was 8 hours away. And of course you have to stop, and get gas and take a break and switch. And so we stopped about halfway, so I drove for about 5 hours, and I let her rest, and she was at work, and we made it there about 5 a.m. y'all. So very interesting start to the trip. We did have time constraints because she had to work on Thursday, which meant that we had to get her to where she booked her flight at, and she booked her flight out of LAX in California. So we had to hightail it to LA. And so on day 2, which began very shortly after we got to the hotel, I'm just an early riser, so I woke up at like 7 something. I always eat breakfast at hotels that I stay in, and I ate breakfast, and we were pretty much up and out of the hotel by 9 o'clock. So I didn't get much sleep. Definitely not on day 1. But we left, and we decided that we were gonna drive from Amarillo all the way to LA, which was like a 15.5-hour drive. But we were like, okay, we're gonna split it in the middle. And we went from Amarillo, we drove through Albuquerque, New Mexico, we drove through Flagstaff, Arizona, and we made it to Los Angeles. And so, one of the tips that I want to give to people is, even if you're a planner, book your hotels that same day, right? It's so amazing to plan stuff, and personally, it gives me a sense of peace when I plan stuff early. But on road trips like this, you never know, like, if you might want to stop earlier, or you might want to go past where you already booked, and you might end up losing your money if you book too far out in advance, because again, you have to be flexible because your plans could change. So we ended up getting a hotel right by LAX, not far anyway, probably about 10 minutes from LAX. And my friend actually used her Marriott points to book it, and so it was free. But I wasn't able to, we didn't check into the hotel that I have for Flagstaff. I didn't check into the hotel that I had for Bakersfield, California, because it was 2 hours past LA, because I knew LA hotels would be very expensive. So anyway, I dropped her off at LAX the very next morning, and I was pretty much dropped her off by about 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and I hit LA traffic. Woohoo! So I had another 8-hour stint leaving from LA, and my goal was to go to Ashland, Oregon, which I did make it to Ashland, Oregon. I did make it there a little bit after dark, but I made it. And then that was Wednesday. So Thursday was me driving from Ashland to Mount Vernon. And I made it, y'all. So again, I just made it in last night. But it was a really amazing trip. And so I'm gonna share with you guys some of my video highlights so you can see what I saw as far as terrain. Like, that was the most amazing part. So after those clips play, I'm gonna share some of my personal highlights from the trip with you guys. What did you think? Let me know what you thought of my clips in the comments below. Keep in mind, I'm totally not a photographer or any professional person, but I wanted to capture some of those beautiful moments. Being from Arkansas is so flat, or Little Rock, it's so flat. And I was just amazed by the different types of terrain I was seeing, like driving through mountains, driving through deserts. It was so amazing, driving through real urban areas. I do want to share some of my trip highlights with you all. And this is kind of what I took from my trip. So this was pretty much me traveling to make it to Mount Vernon. I didn't really get to do fun touristy stuff. My goal was really to get to my destination. And again, y'all, it's a 43-hour drive. So I wasn't really trying to make it longer by doing fun type destination things. But here were my positive highlights and takeaways. So again, the very first highlight is going to be the terrain and how beautiful it was, from the desert to the mountains to traveling over passes at night, right? So it was just very beautiful to see. And being from Little Rock, which is the capital, it's very city-like, right? It's a small, big city in Arkansas. But I hadn't seen anything like it, and it was just beautiful. So hopefully you got some of that footage from the clips. The second takeaway was just being able to say that I drove through so many states. Again, going from Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Oregon, Washington. Like, I drove through some pretty big and cool and well-known cities. LA, Portland, Seattle, Albuquerque. Like, it's really cool just to be able to say that I had that experience. Also, kind of piggybacking off what I just said, but it was my first time in a lot of these cities. I've never been to Portland, never been to Seattle, never been to Los Angeles, and I was just amazed. I was kind of scared, but I was simply amazed by, how these cities actually look in person. You get to see them like online and other people visiting, but it's really cool to just be there yourself. By the way, while I was in LA, I did get and I got a picture by the dunes. So here it is. And y'all, I look like a total Insecure geek, but I don't care because I love Insecure. I will watch it over and over. Like, I will watch, I think there's 5 seasons. I will watch all 5 seasons again today if I had the time. Okay. And so I got to take a picture by the dunes. My hotel in LA was not very far from it. And that was like my little geeked out tourist moment in LA. My very last highlight, maybe could be considered a low light, was traffic, y'all. Oh my gosh. Like I told y'all, I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas, and our highways have 3 lanes. Some of them just have 2, y'all. Okay. So I'm not used to like stupid amounts of traffic, like crazy stupid amounts of traffic. When I was leaving LA, just trying to get out of LA County, I sat there for 30 minutes and traveled 4 miles. And I was like, man, this sucks. When I got into Seattle, like, GPS rerouted me trying to take me a shorter route. But it actually made it longer, and it added probably like 50 minutes to my route. And I was stuck in traffic. Like, Seattle traffic sucks. LA traffic sucks. So definitely was an experience. It was certainly an experience for me, and I'm thankful for those experiences. But definitely, as you're traveling, if you decide to travel to your next assignment, be mindful of the traffic in the cities you go through, and also be mindful of the times you go through. I wish that I had planned better to make sure that I wasn't traveling in the city during those peak travel times, during those rush hour times. So make sure that if you're traveling, if you are going to go through a big metropolitan city, try not to travel there through the rush hour times, or give yourself time, break time or sleeping time during those rush hour times, and start moving after rush hour ends. So that kind of leads me into the very last part of this video, and I want to just share some final tips with y'all. So we've already talked about reservations, and I shared with you how I pre-booked my reservations, and then I had to forego some of them because plans changed. So my suggestion is to book your reservations the day of. That way you're way more certain of if you're going to actually need that vacation. You're not losing money. You don't have to call the hotel trying to say, hey, this came up. Is there any way I can cancel with no fee? Because most hotels will still charge you, assess you the fee, right? Assess you your stay if you don't cancel within an appropriate amount of time. Number 2, check the weather frequently. I was so paranoid about the weather because I know in Northern California and definitely Oregon and Washington, that snow happens. It's prevalent, right? Like, I'm literally traveling in the mountains. And so I downloaded an app, and I'll link it in the comments below, but I downloaded an app and pay for the premium version, which was like $11.99 a year. And I could put in my destination, my beginning and end, and it would show me the weather. It had like a little slider at the bottom, so you could adjust your time that you're, moving. You could put different stop points in there, and it showed you the weather, like based on the amount of time you were going to stop somewhere. Like if you were doing a hotel stay at one place, you could say, okay, I'm staying here for 24 hours, and it would adjust the weather according to your stay. It showed you the temperature. It showed you the types of, weather that was going to happen. It had like a legend at the bottom with different symbols. It was really amazing. And it was just $12 a year. So I'm going to suggest that app for anyone who is traveling, and especially if you're traveling out of an area where you feel comfortable. So like, I'm from the South and I was traveling to the Pacific Northwest. So I didn't know much about the weather or the terrain, and so I wanted to really be sure. So make sure that however you do it, whether it's the app that I have below or any kind of weather app, make sure that you're very privy to the weather and plan your trip accordingly, as well as be flexible, right? So there was one, it was when we had stayed in LA, and I was gonna take the day and just rest and stay there another night. Well, my weather app went ahead and told me that there was snow predicted for Thursday morning. And so I had to go ahead and gun it, so that I could beat that snow, right? So it helped me figure out what was the best course of action for me, instead of me waking up and being surprised and like trying to drive through snow, which I have no idea how to do. And finally, make sure that before you go on any road trip, you perform your car maintenance. Like, you get your car worked on. Before I left, I definitely got my brakes replaced. I got my oil changed. I made sure to get my car checked out. Anything that I was wondering, like if I had questions about something, I got my tires rotated. Like, when you are using your car to travel across the United States, you definitely want to make sure that you take care of it, and get it checked out before you leave. So thank you so much for tuning in to this video. I wanted to share, just in case there were any other like travel professionals, travel social workers specifically, that were planning to drive to their first or their next assignment. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you soon.